This is a verbatim transcript of federal courtroom testimony from the Sean Diddy Combs trial, as reported. There are headlines that flash across your screen and disappear within minutes. And then, there are headlines that make the world stop scrolling. Prince Harry testifies against Diddy in U.S. court. At first, no one believed it. Royalty. Hip-hop royalty. A courtroom. Together? It sounded made for tabloids. And for a moment, that's all people thought it was. Just another story, spun for clicks. But this time, it was real. On a humid June morning in Manhattan, the corridors of the federal courthouse were buzzing with media crews. Reporters shoved microphones toward anyone who even resembled a celebrity. Cameramen fumbled with tripods. Online gossip channels live-streamed shaky commentary from the sidewalk. And inside, under oath, stood Prince Harry. No uniform, no medals, no entourage, just a dark suit, a nervous glance toward the gallery, and a silence that hung so thick, even the judge looked unsettled. Harry cleared his throat. His voice was steady. But behind it, years of bitterness simmered just beneath the surface. "I never wanted to be here," he began. "But after what's been said, after what's been done, I couldn't stay silent." The courtroom leaned forward. Even the court stenographer paused before typing again. Harry wasn't named as a victim. He wasn't accused. But his name, his identity, had been dragged into a scandal that had nothing to do with him. And it all started with a single paragraph, buried in a 115-page civil suit against music mogul Sean Diddy Combs. The lawsuit, brought forward by multiple women, outlined years of alleged abuse, trafficking, and coercion. And in a shocking twist, one page briefly referenced a royal being at a party hosted by Diddy in 2007. The implication? That the party had ties to illicit activity. That even British royalty was somehow within arm's reach of Diddy's darkest secrets. It was a throwaway line. But to the British tabloid press, it was everything. Within 24 hours, headlines blared, "Prince Harry linked to Diddy trafficking scandal, royal family caught in U.S. sex crime case." The damage was instant. Harry had spent the better part of the last decade trying to protect his wife, Meghan, and their children from the exact kind of media firestorm he'd grown up fearing. Now, once again, he found himself at the center of it, with a family at home reading those same stories in disbelief. And for Harry, this wasn't just another PR crisis. It was personal. "I met Mr. Combs once," Harry testified, "at a charity concert in Hyde Park. There were hundreds of people. I shook his hand, said thank you for supporting the cause, and we went our separate ways." He looked toward the plaintiff's lawyer. "That was 18 years ago." A few jurors shifted uncomfortably. One of them, a woman in her 40s, looked like she'd seen every tabloid headline leading up to this. Harry continued, "But, somehow, my name has been turned into a weapon. Used to boost clicks, inflate views, and draw attention to a lawsuit I knew nothing about." The judge leaned forward. "Mr. Windsor," he said, using Harry's formal name, "you're saying your inclusion in the filing has caused you material harm?" Harry didn't blink. "It has caused me emotional harm. And worse, my children read about it. And they asked me if their father was going to prison." The words echoed across the hushed courtroom like a crack of thunder. "My children asked me if their father was going to prison." For a brief moment, even the attorneys exchanged glances, because no one could deny the raw truth of it. It didn't matter that Harry hadn't been accused of anything. The mere suggestion was enough to stain a reputation forever. And in America, where tabloid culture was as relentless as it was in Britain, that stain could last a lifetime. Harry drew a slow breath, steadying himself. His hands were folded carefully on the polished wood of the witness stand. He looked older than the photographs that had followed him since childhood. There was something in his eyes, an exhaustion that went beyond this courtroom, beyond Diddy, beyond the headlines. It was the weight of never being allowed to just be. The plaintiff's attorney approached. "Your Royal Highness," Harry held up a hand, almost apologetically. "Please, just Mr. Windsor. I'm here as a citizen." There was a ripple of surprise. But he wasn't trying to be theatrical. He simply didn't want his title to be the headline tomorrow. The attorney nodded, flipping through a stack of papers. "Mr. Windsor, you've testified that you met Mr. Combs in 2007, that you never attended any other gatherings with him, that you have no knowledge of the conduct alleged in this case. Is that correct?" "That is correct." "And you have no relationship, business or personal, with the defendant?" "None whatsoever." The lawyer paused, choosing the next question carefully. "Can you describe the impact these headlines have had on your mental health and your family's sense of safety?" Harry closed his eyes for just a moment, gathering the words. "When my mother died," he began, voice lower now, "I was 12 years old. I remember standing outside the gates of Kensington Palace and seeing how the papers sold her death, how they turned her life into a spectacle. I promised myself I would never let that happen again to the people I love." He opened his eyes, looking directly at the jury. "And yet, this is exactly the same thing. A rumor placed in a lawsuit, with no evidence. Within hours, it was around the world. My wife was sent threats. My children were asked by classmates if I was a criminal. My security team was doubled because of credible warnings." He swallowed hard, voice steady but frayed at the edges. "It is not just gossip, it is violence. Violence by another name." In the gallery, a journalist scribbled furiously in a notebook, capturing every word. For once, they didn't seem eager to twist it. They simply looked stunned. The defense attorney rose, buttoning his tailored suit jacket. "Mr. Windsor, you would agree, wouldn't you, that your status as a public figure means your name naturally attracts attention?" Harry looked at him levelly. "My status as a public figure does not mean my children should suffer for stories that are untrue." His voice dropped to nearly a whisper. "It does not mean that any of us should." A silence spread across the room again. This time, no one dared to break it. The days that followed were a whirlwind of media frenzy, legal maneuvering, and public debate. The courtroom was filled with quiet anticipation when Prince Harry was called back to testify one final time. He had made his point, but there was still the matter of the defense's last attempt to salvage the wreckage of their narrative. They tried to turn the focus back on Diddy. They tried to make the case about his character, his history, his reputation. But this time, the world wasn't watching for the spectacle. They were waiting to see if the prince would stand firm. Diddy's legal team had come prepared. They paraded witnesses who testified to Diddy's charitable efforts, his work in the community, and even his standing as a father figure in the hip-hop world. But none of it mattered anymore. The public was no longer focused on whether Diddy was guilty of trafficking. They were focused on the greater issue, the weaponization of celebrity for profit. One lawyer, sensing the shift, threw a last-ditch attempt. "Mr. Windsor," he asked, "you've spoken at length about the damage to your family. But you're not here because you were accused of a crime, are you?" Harry paused, his gaze unwavering. "I'm here because what was done, by both the media and by people looking to profit off of it, has consequences that go beyond me. My family may be strong, but not everyone can weather this kind of storm." He took a deep breath. "It's not just about me. It's about what happens when truth is twisted to make a buck. It's about how it hurts everyone, victims, families, and even people who don't deserve to be in the spotlight at all. The weight of his words echoed through the room, and for the first time, Harry's role in this whole saga wasn't defined by the press or the courtroom. He wasn't the prince or the celebrity. He was a man who had had enough of being a pawn in someone else's game. The judge, nodding thoughtfully, asked Harry if he had anything more to say before the case would be handed to the jury. For a moment, the room fell into a tense silence. The media had fed on this story for weeks, but now Harry's voice broke through the noise. I want people to understand this isn't just about headlines. This isn't just about celebrity feuds. This is about human dignity, the right to be treated with respect, no matter who you are. And with that, he stood. The courtroom buzzed with whispered conversations. Was he speaking for himself? Or was he speaking for everyone who had been wronged by the media and the powerful forces that profited from public scrutiny? The jury deliberated for hours. When the verdict came down, it was clear that Harry had made an impact. The case was settled in a way that left the media outlets that had once smeared him scrambling to issue public apologies. The headlines would eventually fade, but Harry's testimony had shifted something more significant than a legal victory. It had awakened a larger conversation, one that wasn't about famous figures, but about the power of stories and the responsibility of those who tell them. In the weeks that followed, Harry and Meghan quietly returned to their life in California, grateful for the brief respite, but never expecting to return to the normal they once knew. They knew better than anyone that when the world takes aim at you, it doesn't stop with a verdict. But Harry had made it clear. He wasn't going to be the one to stay silent anymore. For the first time in a long while, he had found his voice. And the world, for all its noise, had to listen.